This is every League of Legends MSI explained in 34 minutes and 30 seconds. MSI 2015. With League of Legends esports fully established after 4 successful world championships, Riot wanted to add another international event to the calendar so fans didn't have to wait until October to see the best teams in the world face off, leading to the creation of the Mid-Season Invitational. Held at Florida State University, the first MSI was fairly bare bones and featured just 6 teams. The Spring Split champions from OGN, LPL, EULCS, NALCS, and the LMS, with one international wildcard team rounding it out. The teams will compete in a single elimination round-robin best-of-1 group stage that fed into a single elimination best-of-5 knockout stage. And it was no shock who finished at the top of the table, with Korea's SK Telecom T1 and China's Edward Gaming going 5-0 and 4-1 respectively. Turkish wildcard representative Besiktas had some fun moments, like sending 4 people mid lane to kill Faker on his birthday.
Looks like Thakali's and Thaldrin just on the other side, and it's going to be as well. Dumbledoge from the top lane. The hits go in. Oh, 10 points to Dumbledoge. First blood.
But they weren't able to win any games and finished dead last. Meanwhile, NA representatives TSM did nearly as bad, beating Besiktas and losing to everybody else. The final 2 knockout spots were secured by AHQ and Fnatic, but while AHQ had a strong group stage, they were swiftly 3-0'd by EDG. Fnatic, on the other hand, showed up to play against SK Telecom, forcing them to silver scrapes off the back of their mid laner Febiven, who solo killed Faker several times throughout the series.
Faker eats 2 shurikens, the knockup is interrupted as Febiven materializes, ignites, plus 1 more! That is 2 1v1s in a game!
But SKT would come out on top in the end, setting up China versus Korea in the very first MSI final. However, there's one thing about this SKT lineup that I hadn't mentioned yet, and it's that they were swapping between 2 different mid laners, EasyHoon and Faker. And SKT would actually start EasyHoon in the first 3 games of the finals, where he'd go 1 and 2, setting the stage for Faker to come in Game 4 and send us to silver scrapes. Heading into Game 5 with the momentum on their side and Faker on his undefeated 12-0 LeBlanc pick, this looked like SKT's series to lose.
Faker has never lost with LeBlanc on the competitive stage, 12-0.
But EDG had Faker right where they wanted him, doing everything in their power to shut him down, including a Morgana mid counter pick from Pawn. They'd execute this trap composition to perfection and roll over SKT in Game 5, claiming China's first international win.
Now trying to keep them from being extinct in the Mid-Season Invitational. Here's the last engage. EDG doesn't even see the turrets. Eyes on SKT. SK Telecom T1 are wiped. The Nexus turrets are going down. LPL's Edward Gaming are the 2015 Mid-Season Invitational champions.
MSI 2016. With the concept now proven, Riot would invest much more money. This was a serious tournament now. While MSI did get its own theme in 2015, Riot took it to the next level in 2016, leaning fully into regional pride by releasing an awesome cinematic and creating a unique theme for every region. The format stayed largely the same, with the group stage being expanded to a double round robin, taking the runtime of the tournament from 4 days to 11. The additional games would make the group stage much more entertaining, because while hometown LPL heroes Royal Never Give Up finished first place with ease, things were extremely chaotic below them, and no team embodied this chaos better than North America's Counter Logic Gaming. As the only team in the tournament playing Enchanter supports, they had a totally unique meta read, beating SKT and coming back from 18,000 gold down to upset RNG, finishing just 1 game behind them in 2nd place.
Looper, he's going low, but he chrono breaks back. A double kill for Hui. A kill for Haley. Oh my God, believe it. A triple kill. That's gonna be the ace. Looper is down. CLG. Do you believe, Kobe?
Did it? Are you kidding me? They're gonna take down the undefeated team here at MSI.
A Nexus turret will fall. Another will fall. 42 minutes. And
I never doubted them! I never doubted them!
CLG, Counter Logic Gaming with the most unlikely victory!
Things could not have been more different for G2 Esports. A year after Fnatic had pushed SKT to 5 games, G2 would be humiliated in their very first international event and finish just 2-8, spawning both the G2 vacation meme and the "my Azir is bad, my Rise is worse, you guessed it right, I'm G2 perks" copy pasta that would follow him for a while, and it would follow the rest of the team too. They got absolutely torn apart by the community. SKT, meanwhile, were struggling, being upset multiple times by both CLG and Flash Wolves, and finishing 4th in the group stage. But against RNG in the semifinals, they woke up and proceeded to do T1 versus the LPL things to RNG, dismantling them 3-1.
The perfect game in the last match of the semifinal. Into the finals they go. SKT are here to stay with a perfect game win over Royal.
This worked out amazingly for CLG, who made quick work of the Flash Wolves, sending North America to their first ever international finals. If you want the full play-by-play of this run, we made a video on it that you can check out after this one. But spoiler alert, the Cinderella story ended there, as SKT had finally gotten it together and copied CLG's Enchanter homework, smashing them 3-0 to claim their very first MSI win.
As SKT have got 4 members down, they turn their attention to the Nexus, and SK Telecom continue to rule the world, and they are your mid-season invitational champions.
MSI 2017. MSI took a trip down south to Brazil for 2017 as Riot expanded the tournament even further, introducing the play-in stage, which took the field from 6 teams to 13 with an expanded prize pool of $1 million. Up from $100K just 2 years ago. The most exciting thing to come out of the new play-ins format was the debut of the Gigabyte Marines on the international stage, who shocked the world by pushing TSM to 5 games in their qualification match.
Archie taking some damage in the backline. Optimus still looking to find the damage on the turtle if he can. Zonya's Hourglass giving himself alive. A double kill for Bjergsen. Now he's gonna get himself away. Slay takes the kill to Svenskeren. It's a 2 for 2.
GAM would eventually reach the main stage, and while they didn't advance, they put up a strong showing and played spoiler, taking games off G2, TSM, and the LPL's World Elite.
There's nothing else to do. Archie gonna stay alive for a bit longer. 9-5 seconds next up. It's only Chie. That is it. The 4-5-way tie for second.
SKT would dominate the group stage, closely followed by WE, with a soup of 4 and 6 teams trailing behind them: Flash Wolves, G2, and TSM. Earlier in the tournament, these two had played one of the most entertaining games in MSI history.
He has a GA. He can get back up and try to finish it. Here he goes. They see him. They see him now. Here comes Hanser. Does he have the damage? He cues in for a bit of movement. He cues him back. Trick needs 5 autos. The Flash missed the harpoon. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here comes Tom Catch, and they're going to stop him. TSM's approaching the top side. 20-second respawns. Can they get him? They're going to get the damage. They get him just in time. 50 minutes in. 15-second death timers. In they go. TSM still against the clock. It's going to be close. I think they have it, though. With the 2 HP Nexus, it's going to be it. The Nexus turret number 2 is down. The Nexus going to fall in TSM. In the strangest game I have cast. Take the win over G2.
TSM would have to face Flash Wolves in a tiebreaker to make it out of groups. And as a North American team in a tiebreaker at an international tournament, you all know what TSM did next. In the knockout stage, G2 did something nobody was expecting, shocking World Elite and going from laughingstock of the tournament to the finals in just 1 year.
Prove to Europe, this is where they belong. G2 Esports take down WE, and G2 are redeemed.
This was a huge series for Europe and for G2. While this may seem crazy if you're a newer fan, G2 at this time was seen as a major liability internationally, and EU fans were not happy to see them there after 2016. But they fully redeemed themselves against WE, and they haven't looked back since. However, just like CLG, the magic would end in the semifinals because despite taking a game, SKT would win the series in dominant fashion.
SKT to cement themselves the championship. G2's redemption is nice, but SKT going through the crucible of the mid-season invitational to lock it down as the best team in the world, and SKT are once again the champions!
MSI 2018. MSI would head to Europe for the first time in year 3, and the field would expand to 14 teams, the largest ever. It was also the first MSI without SKT. Kingzone Dragon X would be representing Korea instead, and they looked like the team to beat after a dominant spring split, but fell to third place behind RNG and a shockingly strong Flash Wolves team. Meanwhile, at the bottom end of the standings, North America once again found themselves in a do-or-die tiebreaker, with Team Liquid playing Fnatic for a spot in the semifinals. Neither team had a smooth road to get there, with Fnatic starting 0-2, winning 3 games in a row, and then finishing out the group stage on a 3-game losing streak, but things were especially rough for Team Liquid. They started this tournament in freefall, as Ole would sub himself out on the second day of the tournament, and TL would start the group stage 0-4 before clawing their way back to 4-6. Who won the tiebreaker? You already know it was Fnatic.
Reckless and the rest of the team will send themselves to the knockout stage. They will extinguish Team Liquid's hope. Fnatic make it to the top 4. They're going to Paris.
While not exactly the most competitive, the previous 2 years had given us major upsets in the semifinals, but that was not the case this year, with the LCK and LPL representatives absolutely clapping up the competition with ease to advance to the finals where things got intense. The series was balanced on a nice edge, and it looked like we were heading to Game 5, but in the end, RNG closed out a back-and-forth Game 4, giving Uzi the Crownless King his very first international title.
Inhibitor will fall middle. There goes Levy Sol. It's caught up by Khan. Khan gets trapped. He's got the ultimate available. Gorilla is not going to be able to save him. And Kinzo's face is in tatters. For the first time ever, RNG's chasing success. Royal never give up. Rule the world. Winning MSI 2018.
MSI 2019. This is one of the most important tournaments in League of Legends history, at least for Western fans, but it didn't seem that way at first. Defending world champions Invictus Gaming were the clear favorites to win, with a 9-1 group stage complete with a 15-minute and 57-second speed running of SK Telecom, the fastest international League of Legends game of all time. G2 Esports had a confusing group stage. They went 2-0 against SKT, but also 0-2 against Fongvu Buffalo of all teams. The only 2 wins that PVB would get in the entire tournament. G2 finished the group stage at 5-5 and entered the knockouts on a 3-game losing streak. NA would end the group stage at 4-6 for the 3rd consecutive year, but fortunately for Team Liquid, this time there was no tiebreaker game necessary, allowing them to limp into playoffs where they'd immediately face IG. Nobody was giving TL a snowball's chance in hell of taking this series.
It's gonna have a very difficult time defending, and then here we go. Pop Blossom takes Ning down. It's IG on the run. A double kill over the Impact. Balon's also gonna fall as Xmithy will too. IG now in full retreat. The Shy's gonna be caught. There's your stun you're looking for. Topped off. Still looking to maybe find this fight. Xmithy's gonna be put to sleep, but Zaki's gonna be put on the ground. Double kill legendary. Ladies and gentlemen, Team Liquid will do it. Haters be silenced. Expectations be damned. One of the biggest moments in League of Legends history as Team Liquid take down the reigning world champs.
This is one of the biggest upsets in League of Legends history, and it came out of absolutely nowhere. TL went up to the defending world champs coming off the most dominant group stage in MSI history and punched them in the mouth 3-1 with the whole world watching. Now it was G2's turn. Up against SKT, a team they'd already 2-0'd in the group stage, what could they do with the world on upset watch?
This is the G2 classic. They never go for conventional when trying to end the game. They're split pushing right now. Rise joins the top side. Here they go.
All right, Abyssal Voyage will deliver Teddy to the back line, but Caps and Wonder are on the Nexus. They will not go quietly. The Nexus is being focused, but look at Faker. Nexus 1 or 2 more hits. Many more hits on. Wonder forces game 5. Teddy is trying to step forward. The taunt is going to come out. Caps is trying to find the kill. Mata's in trouble. Faker's low, but they've already got one onto Mata. Where is Teddy? Follow his HP bar. Khan flashes up the wall. Teddy's dead. Jankos is in the pit. G2 Esports have been gifted and donated a Baron from SKT. That's a dunk from Wonder. Death from below for the double, for the ace, for the Baron and the base. The gap be damned. Champions can fall, gods can bleed. Where were you when the West rose up to conquer champions? G2 Esports eliminates SK Telecom. North America face Europe at the MSI Finals.
In an absolutely unthinkable twist, it was North America versus Europe in the MSI Finals, the first and only time that 2 Western teams have faced off in a Riot International Final. Fans were hyped and the trash talk was flying as everyone expected a hard-fought back-and-forth series, but that's not what we got. If you're an EU fan, you already know what's about to happen. If you're an NA fan, avert your eyes.
Nice juke by Cath, but will be hit a little bit. Nice double stun comes in. Ult comes in as well. He's got a lot of a playground to play around with. They find that first stun. They find some damage, but Ignite means he will get the solo kill in the 1v2. And Caps tries it for Jensen. And here comes Mickey. G2 unwilling to be stopped. The turret still in their eyes. Feathers fly. And G2 will pull back. That's a big stun. That's a big engage. Oh my gosh, look at the fight. They look for kill number 4. This might be an ace inside of the base, inside of 18 minutes. This is what peak League of Legends looks like. And it comes from Europe. A world record. G2 Esports 3-0 will win MSI 2019.
G2 generationally slaughtered Team Liquid, with the series lasting 70 minutes and 43 seconds. This wasn't just a stomp, it is, to this day, the very fastest international best-of-5 in history. But G2 had made more important history, becoming the first non-LCK or LPL team to win an MSI, and the first European team to win an international event since Fnatic in Season 1 Worlds. It was a legendary achievement that Western League hasn't seen the likes of since, and proof of just how special this G2 lineup really was. MSI 2020. This is the MSI that never was, being first postponed and then canceled due to the pandemic. These are the teams that qualified, so before we move on, let's take a moment to appreciate all the hypothetical wins that these teams could have had. MSI 2021. After 1 year's hiatus, MSI was back in 2021, marking the start of a new era for the tournament. For the first 5 years of its existence, MSI was pretty much just a Diet Worlds, with fewer teams and fewer days. This would change in 2021, but things would get weird as Riot would start to experiment with the MSI format, splitting the tournament into 3 different stages. The first stage was still called groups, but this time, instead of 1 group, teams would be split into 3. 2 groups of 4, and due to GAM Esports being unable to compete due to travel restrictions, 1 group of 3. That group of 3 would consist of LPL champions RNG, Australia's Pentanet GG, and the Unicorns of Love from Russia. In other words, 1 hydrogen bomb versus 2 coughing babies, and due to the low number of teams in the group, they were forced to play a quadruple round robin. That meant that we had to watch RNG blast these teams 8 times in a row, resulting in probably the worst viewing experience in MSI history.
We've all seen those games. Domestically, even the better teams that we've seen don't place those wards. Okay.
What?
You don't have to do that.
The hell?
He is on a ward.
RNG would go undefeated with an average game time across the 8 games of exactly 25 minutes, with only one of those games lasting more than 30. Meanwhile, in the other groups, Mad Lions, PSG Talon, Damwon Kia, and Cloud9 would escape with ease, advancing to the 6-team Rumble stage, a double round robin best of 1 with the top 4 teams advancing to a single elimination best of 5 knockout stage. Now, you might be asking yourself here, isn't this just the exact same format we had before with an extra step that nobody wanted? And yeah, that's pretty much exactly what it was. The 2 teams on the outside looking in were Pentanet GG and Cloud9, who were known for 2 things in this tournament. 1, giving Pentanet their only win, and 2, the birth of the Blabbers Crabbers meme, where he would die at Crab over and over again for seemingly no reason. Not a great tournament for NA fans.
But being zoned out, he's gonna try, get stunned, take a bunch of damage, flashes to smite a Scuttle Crab, but Blabber, be careful. Where is your team?
Dead?
He's at 200 HP. That is the worst Scuttles take I have ever seen in my life.
That was terrible.
This tournament's one saving grace is that it had a very entertaining knockout stage, with Doggo and PSG making things interesting versus RNG.
How big is it going to be though? Tries, but it's not gonna be enough damage. Doggo gets 1K shutdown. He took down Gala. He flashed to safety. The rookie substitute, and he gets pushed back and he nearly had it. He nearly had it, but a triple kill saves the entire series.
And the Mad Lions of all teams pushing Damwon to 5 games. Finals was another 5-game banger, with RNG riding strong performances from Gala and a role-swapped Xiaohu to their 2nd MSI title.
RNG, they're on the Nexus. Damwon has no ability to stop this. It's game over. To be the best, you gotta beat the best. And RNG take down the world world champs to become your MSI champions of 2021.
Between the unfortunate format and the unpopular jungle meta dominated by an extremely overtuned Rumble, Morgana, and old Udyr, this might be the worst MSI ever played. MSI 2022. Unfortunately, Riot would keep the format exactly the same in 2022, down to the 4-4-3 groups, but with even more controversy than the year before. To start with, due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the LCL would be permanently cancelled and wouldn't send a representative. Vietnam would return to the tournament after being absent since 2019, but Saigon Buffalo weren't the champions. That was GAM Esports, who didn't show up due to being named the national team for the Southeast Asian Games, making GAM the first and to this day only team to refuse to play at MSI, and Saigon Buffalo the first team to ever qualify for MSI without winning their region's spring split. But the biggest controversy had to do with RNG. Due to travel restrictions, the reigning MSI champions were stuck in China and unable to attend the event in person. However, they'd still be allowed to play in the tournament remotely from China, with all their matches having both teams play at an artificially standardized 35 ping. The problem was that the artificially standardized ping wasn't actually standardized, with RNG's opponents forced to play with what felt like serious packet loss that RNG didn't experience themselves.
The one is like equalized at this ping, but what I heard from Tactical is that the ping doesn't feel like 35. I know what 35 ping feels like, and I know what 60 feels like, and he says that this ping feels more like 60 with packet loss.
To make matters worse, Riot didn't actually confirm this problem until 3 days into the tournament, meaning that RNG would have to replay all 3 of their matches. Thankfully, they still went 3-0, the same results as before, but it was not an ideal start to the tournament. Meanwhile, a group of 3 that promised to be a lot more entertaining than last year's actually kind of sucked. G2 destroyed both EG and Order 4-0, so they'd go undefeated. Order, meanwhile, would lose every game and go winless, while EG would go 4-4, losing every game to G2 and winning every game versus Order. So not a very interesting or impactful group, but definitely a definitive EU greater than NA on that one. Things would be pretty normal after this, with RNG finishing the Rumble stage in first, T1 finishing second, G2 third, and EG fourth, setting up 2 semifinal series that look suspiciously similar to 2019. But like the rest of the tournament so far, it just wasn't that interesting, with both Western teams getting thumped 3-0. Thankfully, the finals went to 5 games, with both teams trading stops before RNG emerged victorious with their second straight MSI title.
And a Tom Kench versus a team of Baron. You've seen this before. The charm flashed away by Yumayushi. Faker looking to get in from the back of the pit. Frozen Tomb available for him. RNG calling T1's bluff. And Faker finds them all! Faker looks for the charm to get out to Xiao Hu, but Xiao Hu has the Frozen Tomb to get out of it. Owner in the backline with the Cyclone trying to do what he can, but Ming with a 4-man charm. Kevin dives off, but in goes Wei. The kickback onto Zeus. RNG just sweep the floor with T1, and you have to feel it's as good as done. The LPL continue their era of dominance, and they are leaving no one alive. It's RNG's world, and we're just living in it.
MSI 2023. After a cancellation in 2020 and 2 rough years marred by controversy, MSI needed a big shakeup, and that's exactly what we got in 2023, as Riot took a sledgehammer to the format for real this time. For the first time ever, we'd see more than 1 team per region at MSI, with the LCK, LPL, LEC, and LCS sending their top 2 teams, with the PCS, VCS, LJL, CBLOL, and LLA sending 1 team each. The group stage would be eliminated completely, and instead MSI would become one big double elimination bracket, with Gen.G, T1, JDG, Mad Lions, and Cloud9 seeded directly into the bracket, while the rest of the teams would fight it out in a smaller play-in bracket for the remaining 3 spots. That left us with these 8 teams advancing to the bracket stage, and they put on a show. A lot of these series were stomps or same region team kills, but people still loved it because of just how many series they got to watch. There were 29 total best of series in the first 8 MSIs combined. MSI 2023 had 25. So even though there were some stinkers in there,
I have never seen a more dominant win from a second seed taking down LEC's number 1 in 17 minutes. T1 embarrassed Mad Lions.
it also gave us some bangers and a huge improvement over the previous format, with Gigabin and BLG putting on a clinic to eliminate both Gen.G and T1 in the lower bracket.
BLG take care of both LCK seeds.
It was supposed to be EDG, it was supposed to be Gen G, it was supposed to be T1, but here at MSI, BLG stands strong in defiance of all expectations. They move to the final.
Setting up an all LPL final showdown with JDG. And while the LCK had made it interesting, this tournament really was all LPL all the time, with Knight and JDG coming out on top 3-1 in the grand finals and looking in prime position for a golden road.
4 players and 2 Nexus towers in the way between JDG and their MSI title. The Cannon Minions helping them as BLG just retreat to the base. Bin TP's away, he knows it's done. And JDG are the 5 fingers of Knight's golden left hand. And they will claim the prize that was promised. JDG, your MSI champions.
MSI 2024. If last year's MSI was a breath of fresh air, MSI 2024 in Chengdu, China was a smash hit. For the first time in what felt like forever, the format stayed effectively the same, but Riot did up the stakes by giving the MSI champion direct qualification to Worlds. The tournament got off to a horrible start for North America as FlyQuest not only got speedrun by T1 almost as quickly as Mad Lions had the year before, but they didn't even make the main stage, getting 2-0'd by PSG. In the main event, we got put on upset watch right away, as the first few rounds saw 3 unexpected Game 5s in 3 days. First, Betty had the series of his life as PSG forced BLG to silver scrapes.
The game, but he's poked out too. The rage insane. Betty still winning the fight. Arcade shit, insane. Betty, goddamn. We're going to Game 5, aren't we?
But BLG crushed them in Game 5. The next day, G2 went up 2-1 against T1, but couldn't seal the deal and lost the series.
Strike into the all-out broken blade, pulled across the wall. Here the last thing shot out of his spear was He finds one summer! This far and no further! This close and no closer! For G2, this was the day they almost beat T1. For T1, it's just another Friday!
Then, the day after that, Top Esports nearly reverse-swept Gen G, forcing Canyon to put on a Nidalee clinic to win Game 5.
Because for the first time ever, Gen G beat the LPL in a best-of-5 since the name change. First ever religion that has come out of League of Legends. And let me tell you, Gen G fans, I am a believer!
But the LPL struck back immediately with BLG sending T1 to the lower bracket, where it looked like we could see some major upsets. Team Liquid nearly took down T1 after Yawn popped off, before G2 broke their LPL curse and quickly 3-0'd Top Esports, setting up a rematch with T1. A rematch that unfortunately did not deliver, with G2 getting bounced 3-0, but for G2, a 4th place finish at MSI was nothing to sneeze at. Last year, the top 3 had all been about the LPL, and while BLG eliminated T1 in 5 games for the 2nd year in a row, this time Chovy and Gen G showed up to play. Lehens made Blitzhook look point and click in Game 2 of the finals, allowing Pays to rack up an international record 28 kills on Kalista.
BLG may have found a fight, but Pays is breaking records and Gen G are moving on to match point.
However, BLG refused to go away and mounted a last-ditch comeback attempt in Game 4, but in the end, Gen G held off not 1, not 2, but 4 backdoor attempts, allowing Chovy to lift his very first international trophy after many years of falling short.
7 years the LCK has waited! 7 years Gen G has waited! A lifetime Chovy has waited! But he and Gen G are your MSI champions! We finally did it!
MSI 2025. 2024's MSI was gonna be a tough one to top, but with the arrival of Fearless Draft, MSI 2025 did it. With the tournament returning to North America for the first time since the inaugural MSI in 2015, the event that lasted just 4 days a decade ago now lasts over 2 weeks and has almost 3 times the games. Part of that is due to the play-in stage changing from best of 3s to best of 5s. And they started using all 5 of those games very quickly, with Furia taking both G2 and GAM the 5 before GAM threatened G2 with a reverse sweep in the qualification match the next day.
It's just another scream day, you know, so we're ready for next week versus the big boys.
Next week, when you're back home, right? Is that what you're saying? Because we all know what time it is, baby. We all know what time it is. What time is it, baby? What time is it? Tell me.
It's G2 time, baby!
It's Gam time!
Gam is aced, and G2, they had to work for it. They had to sweat for it. They had to bleed for it, but they won't be denied. They eliminate Gam and move on to the main stage.
It was not, in fact, Gam time, but it was still a wildly entertaining play-in stage. And the bracket stage started off just as entertaining, because while every Western team would fall on schedule to their LPL or LCK opponents, they would at least take a game. However, the real dark horse in round one was the PCS team with one of my favorite names ever, CFO Flying Oyster. Their star mid laner Honkyu was born in 2007, and he, Junja, and Doggo managed to take T1 to 5 games.
It's Doggo's time to shine. The Penta is there. Doggo, in the face of the reigning world champions, stands tall.
In the second round, it was 2 LCK versus LPL clashes and 2 LCK victories. Genji barely outlasted anyone's legend, while T1 3-0'd the team that had eliminated them in the last 2 MSIs, BLG.
작년 월제 악몽이 떠오르게 해드리겠습니다.
Meanwhile, in the lower bracket, we got a winner-go-home showdown right away between FlyQuest and G2.
I'm being told that it's no longer 2019, that Masu is the GOAT, that EU has never made it out of the Swiss stage at Worlds, and that NA runs EU. Of course, it's going to be a 3-0 for FlyQuest, baby. Let's go!
Preach!
Let's go!
Caps left standing, he jumps in, but it will not matter. The last golden statue is buried. The latest chapter of the rivalry is written as an epitaph for Europe, and FlyQuest eliminates G2 from MSI.
FlyQuest then had to face BLG, but fell short time and time again after throwing several leads, losing the series in heartbreaking fashion in a Game 5 that didn't even feel like a contest after a level 1 disaster.
They certainly would. Brush, he
Oh,
goes
he's not
out of the
efficient.
brush.
He's not efficient.
What in the Masu? What are you doing? He has to pop the cleanse. He takes a ton of damage. Half his health bar's already gone and the minions are here.
This play still lives rent-free in my head. Speaking of near upsets, despite Doggo's best efforts, CFO were eliminated by AL, who later made quick work of BLG, leaving just T1, Genji, and AL remaining in the tournament. The winners finals were back and forth, with Genji just barely outlasting T1 in 5 games.
So much hope domestically, looking to make good as Carrier tries to find the fight, but it's Guma isolated on the side, looking to take down Ruler. One more auto, but it doesn't quite have the damage. Ruler living in the clutch. Genji, hold the line. Genji knock down T1 and advance to the finals.
If T1 wanted another shot at Genji, they were going to have to go through anyone's legend in the lower bracket, but this is T1 versus the LPL we're talking about here, and they dominated Game 5 off the back of 15 kills from Guma's Jinx, setting up an incredibly hype Grand Finals rematch. And this final series absolutely delivered on that hype. If you haven't got the chance to watch this series yet, you should, because it was peak. Going all 5 games, as this time Genji would come back from down 2-1 to force silver scrapes. And the rest, they say, is history.
As Guma's chunked to half, Chovy goes between worlds, Guma goes down, Carrier goes down, Genji, they did not falter on the road to MSI, they didn't fail here in Vancouver for 23 series, they have chased perfection, and now they found it.
This was easily the most competitive League of Legends tournament of all time, as across the board, MSI saw way less sweeps and way more silver scrapes than any other MSI, or Worlds for that matter. So while it's impossible to expect a better tournament in 2026, this new MSI format has been amazing. Also, the last time we made one of these videos, I said that there was no way that T1 could win Worlds, and look what happened next. Regardless, MSI has gone from the black sheep of the international calendar to the most action-packed tournament of the entire year. These are all the teams qualified, and I can't wait to see who comes out on top in Daejeon, South Korea. Thank you all so much for watching, and sorry it's been so long since we've made a video on the main channel. We've been really busy working on some other cool projects, but we should have some more frequent uploads as the year goes on.